Hello, welcome back again. It's with me, Ibrahim Asonko, and I'm with Salieu Taal, former president of Gambia Bar Association, a lawyer or attorney, as we would call it here in the United States in the Gambia. And we just really having a conversation about his tenure as president or former president of Gambia Bar Association. We also dive deeper into his, formative years as a legal person that studied in the United Kingdom and then eventually came back to the Gambia and then started practicing law. And now we're going to continue the conversation and we're going to get into other parts of his life. But we're going to begin that conversation with what we know that in 2016, following the presidential elections, there was a very popular term called Gambia Has Decided. And Saliu has been credited as one of the founders of that movement, and which became sort of a national a very symbolic and iconic term that people use everywhere around the country and outside the country to tell former President Jammeh that Gambians have decided that we do not want authoritarian. We've voted against the authoritarian rule of former President Jammeh, who was in power since 1994, and that we're ready to move on when Jammeh reneged on the decision to hand over power to now President Adama Barrow. But Sal, walk us through that. How did that come about? Who? What's the genesis of Gambia Has Decided?
Actually, it's funny. The room sitting here, that's actually where it came about in this
Oh
in
wow!
Bruford. So it's actually born in this room I'm sitting. You know, so so basically, what happened was, so I mean, after the bar made that statement, I mean, I must say that someone like maybe I think you should interview Aziz Bensouda. He really did a lot.
Okay.
And he's one person that I have a lot of respect for, and he's always behind the scenes and a very strategic person. Yeah. So in fact, uh, a conversation between Aziz and I was really was actually push and triggered that meeting
Wow.
at Coco Ocean, because we were supposed to have an AGM in January. So when this happened, I kind of before I called Aziz, I said, I think we should bring the AGM. I wasn't actually a member of the executive at the time. We should bring
Mhm.
the AGM forward because we have an important matter to discuss, and we as a bar could not sit and wait. And
Mhm.
as had the same idea, I said yes, and he put it together, and we met we met before the meeting, met privately in Coco Ocean with few lawyers. Fast forward, that led to that discussion. That the statement was drafted and then delivered by Chief Cambido as interim president at the time. So after that happened, then that's it. The bar made a statement, and there were statements, and nothing happened apart from maybe trying not to, few lawyers trying not to, working hard to make sure that those judges don't come and the rest of it. And also the lawyers also boycotted the court. By the way, there was a court. No Gambian lawyer would actually go to the court. That
Mhm.
was what we agreed. Those at least our members, for example, for instance. So I kind of like felt frustrated because I felt like, okay, the bar has made a statement. Then what? you know, then Jammeh, as made the announcement that he's, as far as it's concerned, he's declined the election null and void. So he unilaterally cancelled the election on very spurious grounds. So I felt like, I mean, after doing all this, we all, voted for coalition 2016, finally really got rid of this dictator. And now one person will decide that we cannot turn to a new page. I couldn't accept that at an individual level. And and I was very, very intense. I hardly slept. I was like a zombie. And I mean, and my friends, and I was watching social media, people were posting. And I remember one particular post from a very good friend and a sister called Asta Job, a young lady, a young brave woman. Asta Job is her name. There was a time that Sirleaf Johnson came, the president Sirleaf came, Ghana, and Chambers and Buhari. They came to see Jammeh and went to see Jammeh in State House, and they came out and left. So when they came, many people assumed that they were going to put Jammeh in that private jet. Remember, I don't know whether you were in Gambia when
Yes,
Sir
yes, yes.
John.
I remember. Yes,
You
I
know,
remember
you
all of
remember.
it.
See, do you remember that euphoria from here to traffic
Yes.
light to Westfield? It was like, I mean, it was like every Gambian won the lottery. I
Mhm.
mean, I've never seen that sense of happiness and excitement and hope in our people. We were like happy and excited, and we were relieved that we have finally got rid of dictatorship. So we were like at the zenith, well, the peak, right? From there, Jammeh woke up and just brought us down. Say, come on TV. It's like it's like he just took a needle and just pricked the balloon. That's what he did. He just from being high up there, he just woke up and said, you know, not too fast. I'm not going anywhere. And and that just killed our spirit. But you know what it is? We as Gambians, for that fleeting moment, had a taste of freedom that we did that we missed for 22 years. Remember when Jammeh lost the election, they were bringing down his photos, stepping on it.
Yes.
Right? Remember? And they didn't care, and there were soldiers, police. Nobody cared. Nobody was scared to do it. It was crazy. And now and with all our expectation, Action Yakar, he decided that no, I'm not going. In fact, this election is cancelled. So it was like he was trying to kill our spirit, our collective spirit. And we as Gambians I couldn't accept it, and Gambians couldn't accept it. And I saw that there was a lot of, and the political class could not do much. They've done their bit by campaigning to win election. And Jammeh basically put soldiers in every single corner of this country with anti-aircraft guns and everything. You can see every checkpoint, not every junction, you see soldiers having dressed in battle fatigue, like they're going to war. I don't remember that. Every job the Gambians, we were militarized, like we're in this war zone. So, and I'm following social media. I'm like, so a lot of diasporans are talking, and for the first time, Gambians were talking a lot. Before we couldn't say much on Facebook. In fact, they blocked a lot of sites, and we couldn't say much. Now everybody was saying, no, we cannot accept this. And I remember this Asta Job, my dear friend. She's like, what are we going to do about this? I mean, and he said, I remember the post. The silence is deafening. That's what she said. That's when the negotiators from ECOWAS came. The ECOWAS president came. They came, spoke to Jammeh, and left. Didn't say anything. So nobody knew what was discussed or what the outcome is. It was just silence, right? Diplomacy silence for whatever reason. So I and she was like, she was really agitated. So I called her. I said, Asta, there's no point jumping, making noise on social media. We need to do something about this. So I said, I invited her. I said, come to my house at 7 today, and then I asked her to bring like-minded people. And I also pick up the phone and I call people that I had done work with in social. In those days, we did Ebola Free Gambia. We used to do many activities that were non-political, but we had a way of serving the community without being political. We used to do those things. So I looked at people that I've worked with in that field, and I said, come over to my house. And also people of influence, people I thought who had influence, who could mobilize. I called them up to my house at around 8. So I ordered some suya and pizza. I have all the pictures. I'll send you the pictures. So we sat down and we said, okay, now what we're about to do is going to be very dangerous for all of us. And anybody who doesn't want to take a risk can just leave the house, right? We are all Gambian. Everyone in this room is Gambian, educated, privileged. In fact, everybody in the room was educated, Gambian, privileged, right? And has never been an activist in their life, never. We had a doctor with a PhD from MRC. We had an economist with MBA. We had a guy who owns a tech company. We had Rafi Diab, marketing guy. Myself. We had 3 people working for government public service. No, Talib came. No, not that day. He came on the 3rd day. So my cousin Momar Tal was there. My Momar, who later in a third meeting in Khalifa Fal's office. That's when Talib came. We invited Talib. So we said, look, how do we now maintain this momentum? Because the Gambians were like talking and talking. We said, how do we now use this energy and channel it towards a force that will tell this guy that we can't accept what he's doing? That was the idea. How do we bring all these voices together in one place and speak with one voice consistently? That was the mandate. So the first thing we said, okay, because we had done Ebola Free Gambia, we had experience doing that before, which is basically to help the Gambia sort of tell the world that Gambia is open for business. We don't have Ebola. So we did a very successful campaign, hashtag Ebola free Gambia. That's the first time I learned about the hashtag in those days. So I had an experience because I'm an older guy. So young guys like Jama Jack and Fatou Njai taught me how to use Twitter and hashtags. So I'm like, let's do the same hashtag like Ebola free Gambia. Let's do it for the Gambia. Well, it wasn't. We didn't know. We didn't say Gambia decided. We just said we first said Gambia must go. That was the first name we came up with, and then I said let's watch the video. So I played the video of Jammeh congratulating Barrow. And when he was congratulating Barrow, he actually said Gambia has decided himself. If you look at the video, he said it. He's the first to say it, and that's stuck in my head. Then I played the video where Jammeh said that he's looked at the thing and the IEC are evil people, they're not godly people, and that he's cancelling the election, blah blah blah. So I said, see, this is where we are, where we were. You see how excited we were then, and now this is where we are. He's cancelled the election. What are we going to do about it? And nobody's going to help us if we don't help ourselves. So through that debate, we said, let's use Gambia decided. So right there, Rafi sent a text message to his designer, a Dutch guy called Andre, who's very good designer. Said, can you help us with a hashtag, a logo quickly? So within like 10 minutes, the guy emailed us a logo, and it was projected on my TV screen, big TV screen. And we said, you know what we're going to do? We discussed a multi-pronged strategy. So we were like a startup. We said, okay, you know what? Because I said, we know we hear, if we speak, Gambia will say these people are elite, they're not going to listen to us. We knew that, right? But we said we need to be strategic. We said, okay, why don't we change our profiles, all of us, all social media platforms, everything, and then see what happens. So we just changed it, doing nothing. We just changed it without saying anything. Hashtag Gambia decided, nothing else. Boy, oh boy, it was like wildfire.
Wildfire, it went viral.
I mean, like, I was like, we are literally watching, because I had Facebook on my TV screen. I saw things going like literally. Within minutes, or I got people sending it back to me, like everybody I know has changed their profile without us telling them to do it. We just put it out there because it spoke to what the Gambians felt. It resonated with the moment, that moment for Gambians. And then we quickly drew like a strategy plan. So look, we're gonna do the social media campaign. Then that's stage one. Stage two, we're gonna print T-shirts, distribute it. Stage three, stage two was billboards. But Rafi is like, I can give you billboard at cost. We say we all chip in the money. We're gonna put a billboard that says Gambia decided. Simple message for democracy, for peace, for unity, and that sort of thing. And we agreed that our language is gonna be positive. It's gonna be inspirational, not angry, because people were angry, and we needed to be focused, and we need to inspire people to tell them that you've already done your job by voting this guy out. So stay positive until he goes. So that was the thinking behind it. That's why Gambia decided never ever use any foul language. Never. We never insulted Jammeh. We never belittled Jammeh because we respect him as president until he left and the office. So our language was very, very carefully crafted, and we also structured the group as a team. So the group is like a catalyst. It's a nuclear group, but from day one we agreed that this belongs to the people. We are just the catalyst. We are just launching it for Gambians. We even discussed about trademarking it. I said, no, we can't trademark it because it doesn't belong to us. We could have done that. I said, no. This belongs to Gambia. We are just the conduit, the catalyst to amplify the voice of Gambians. So we divide ourselves into like a team of strategy, which I led as chair. We had a comms team, and afterwards I invited Alaji Manka, Haruna Drame, right? I invited Wagan because we needed an open mic, hip hop community. That's why we had that's how we were at open mic. And Gran Don, a tech person. So we had a team of experts in every field. Rafi is the marketing, branding. We had government people, and we invited Talib and Khalifa File, of KMF Technologies, like we had a group. Later on invited Jama Jack, Fatou Njai of Minister of Justice. So these guys came on later on. So we had really a brilliant team of young, brilliant Gambians, and mainly women, right? People don't know. but they behind the scenes, and we have a finance guy because we have to raise funds. So we, through our own, we call our friends, family. We only think 99% of the money we raise it through networks, because we need to. We print thousands of thousands of t-shirts, thousands. I'm telling you, because we believe that this could help catalyze something. We didn't know what it would become, but there was something, a born desire to not to for us not to just keep quiet, to help Gambians speak up, and that is what really the impact of Gambian society, because it actually amplified the voice of the Gambians. And then we took it from Burfoot to the streets. That's the first time I met the likes of Babukar Nyang, Alaji Nyang, Lamin Sedikan at the time of Activista. We met Immortal X, even came on others. We went to the University of Gambia, and there was a conference. I remember there was a conference, or youth convergence conference on what's happening. We came there on a panel and said, this is our country. Let's save our country. You are the youth. You take the lead. We gave the youth T-shirt and gave them leading role. So, for example, Gambia doesn't the youths actually made Gambia society a success. The youth of Gambia. We are just catalysts, but the youths are the ones who were out there spreading T-shirts, selling, giving T-shirts in the streets, being arrested. But they were very brave. I remember when we put up so many billboards in the country, and the police will bring it down. The youths will actually guard our billboards. I have text message with Mola Kande. The text message with came up till now. They're guarding a billboard, and I have pictures. So it was so beautiful to see Gambians for the first time. Everybody came together for one purpose: to keep and maintain our voice, our vote, and protect our democracy. That is the finest moment in the history of Gambia, where Gambians came together for one purpose, intentionally told Jammeh, you may have the guns, you may have the army, but we as a people said no to you. And for me, it's one of I'm so happy to partake in such a noble, thing that really played a big role, in really helping restore democracy. But of course, many people have done a lot more in the past. But Gambia's that we call JD was the tipping point. And we're not trying to take credit. It's God that said that you guys are going to be pushing this at this point in time. But we stand on the shoulders of the great work that has been done by many Gambians. Some have lost their lives, some have been exiled, and we always, because we all have the issue, and we say, look, we're not trying to take anybody's credit. We don't even want credit. This is Gambia. We are not activists. In fact, post Gambia society, if I didn't tell you this, nobody knows those people. Internally, we have a joke called the faceless GHD and the face of GHD. Rafidiab and I are the faces, and all those others are the faceless. And I struggle to bring them out. I say, you guys need to speak up, especially the women. These are women who are brilliant, brave, and selfless, right? I think maybe one day you should have an episode with these women, because these were women who were working in government, and they had families. They were taking risks. They were keeping T-shirts in their homes, distributing T-shirts. People are going to their homes to collect T-shirts. Imagine if the military came, they would be arrested. They could be tortured. They could be killed. And obviously Rafi and I were to be taken out. We had to run to Senegal, because otherwise I wouldn't be having this interview. But when I look back, I'm happy, because I'm like, this is something that is the best thing I've ever done in my life, and I'll do it. It was at great risk, but I didn't even appreciate the risks, because I wasn't even thinking about the risk at the time. I was thinking about my country, like everybody else, like the brave Gambians who were distributing T-shirts, and people were making their own T-shirts after we did. So what we did, we just spread the logo, and the movement took its own life. So when they stopped our T-shirts and our billboards, the young people started spraying graffiti on the wall. Up till today, you'll go and see hashtag in many communities. Those guys were Gambians who were being defiant, and I think that's in the history of Gambia. Apart from the April 10, 11, 8, and April 10 and 11, that was the first time of collective defiance against Jammeh in that massive scale. And I think Gambians sometimes tend to devalue this, but you can't rewrite history. This is a fact. Fortunately, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say. I think by many means, it's the proudest moment of my life, being a young person in the Gambia and witnessing that moment, and just hearing the story of how it came about. Because frankly, I know of few individuals who are involved, but I don't know the entire story of how it came about. but it also speaks to the idea of, in the face of adversity, sometimes it's not always about fighting, fighting war with war, for example, fighting, fist for fist. Is the idea that sometimes life offers an opportune moment for calm and sober, minds to sit together, to think about ideas of how we can frame our message in a peaceful way, a responsible way, a responsive way that will resonate with the moment, and it will canvas support across various sectors of the country where people will understand the significance of the moment. And I think that's what you guys did. So kudos to all of you, man. What you guys did, Sal, getting starting that. Obviously, I know you don't, usually like take credit or ownership of this thing because it became something bigger than all of you. But you guys started this, and I think all of you should absolutely claim credit for it because it's very deserving. Because we would not have been any Adam Barrow or what we have today in the Gambia. With all of our shortcomings, I think we can all agree that we should never have a dictatorial government in the Gambia ever, and every Gambian
Absolutely.
must fight. We must give it all to ensure that we never lose that opportunity to basically give up our freedom and liberty that we have in the country today.
Absolutely. And I mean, I'll just say that I always give the credit to the Gambian people. If the Gambian people did not respond, Gambians like would stay in Budfoot. And I think, particularly youth of Gambia, I think that is the beginning of my connection with the youth of Gambia, because through that I met the activist people, I met the NYP people, I went to NYC people, and I think it became my family, it became my home, and I'm very humble that I had that opportunity. And that's how I realized how energetic and dynamic the Gambian youth are. Lamin Sedikan SO, Lamin Sedikan NYC, Babukar Nyang, Alaji Nyang, and others, and Immortal X. I remember X. You know, I was very fascinated by. I mean, Kimo, Mola, and you and others. These guys stuck their neck for Gambia at great risk. I mean, even Talib, then I will say that I will say that. Oh, I always laugh. I always tell Talib, I actually give you your first political platform. Because that Gamma Zadi was actually the first time that Talib did something I mean, publicly in that manner. That was the first. I have a picture when we went to see Barrow, myself, Talib, and Asta Job when Barrow was in Keraba Hotel,
Mhm.
because and he was very magnanimous and was thanking us for the role we played. I remember when I was in exile in Senegal. I mean, our guys were struggling in Gambia. We had to smuggle T-shirts from Senegal to Gambia for information. We had to smuggle money and spray paint for kids to paint in the streets. And we also used the opportunity because Gambia didn't allow any international press in Gambia. So in Senegal, we had a buffet. We were talking on CNN, we were on Al Jazeera, we were on BBC, we were on Frank Venkat. So we were speaking to the whole world, amplifying the voice of Gambians. And that also blew it up. It got the whole world's attention to Gambia, little Gambia. And all these things really played its role in ensuring that Adam Barrow became president. When during his inauguration, the whole place was in Dakar. I was in that room. I was one of 5 Gambians in the room where Tambedu swore in Adam Barrow. Outside the room, everybody wore a T-shirt, and that's one. Secondly, when he had this swearing in Gambia at the stadium, do you know that we had nothing to do with the stadium? We just came and found the stadium decorated with Gambians decided. We had nothing to do with it. Nothing. Because people owned it, believed it, and manifested it.
Mhm.
And for me, it gives me great joy to see that. It means that if you make the right move at the right time, you can be a catalyst for change. And that change belongs to everybody. And we should own it and be proud of it.
Yeah. So you've been a lawyer for over a decade now, and
No,
you've been at a
no, no, 2 decades and counting,
two.
to be precise. I was actually called. I was called to the British Bar in 1999,
Wow.
England and Wales, and Gambia 2001. So
Well,
if you do the
let me
math,
let me
if you do
let
the
me
math,
take that again. Let me take that again.
yes,
You've been a lawyer in the Gambia for more than 2 decades and counting. So I
yes,
think it will be appropriate for me to ask you, for the benefit of our audience, but especially for a lot of young lawyers that are coming out of in the Gambia, but also elsewhere, who are interested in studying law. Really, what makes a difference between a good lawyer and really a great lawyer, from your experience?
a good lawyer is motivated by money and fame. A great lawyer is motivated by a quest for justice and impact.
Mhm.
Simple. Food for
Uh,
thought.
in the Gambia legal fraternity, do you have specific individuals that you look at until today that you're like, yeah, this is a really great lawyer that I admire deeply, and I aspire to be like them as I, journey through my legal career in the Gambia?
You definitely put me on you put me on a hot seat because if but clearly
Mhm,
Antuman Gay, Antuman Gay,
mhm,
and Surat SBS Jane,
mhm,
Antuman SBS Jane, and um, Aita Drame, right, right, Miss Bensouda, Hawasawali. These are amongst the lawyers that I've always looked up to in terms of for different reasons, and about, like, and of course because these are lawyers I've seen who've always who for there are different lawyers in different they do different things, but Mr. Gay has been an icon, Antoine Gay,
mhm,
an icon fighting. He's been fighting for justice and love for more than close to 5 decades. Mr. Gay and Mr. Jani were called around the time I was born, Sarata Jani. And some of these lawyers, people don't know that they do a lot of pro bono cases. They fight a lot of cases. They don't get paid for it. People don't hear these things. Yeah. Even, I mean, Ida Drame, for example, I know of cases where she's fought for people to get out of prison, spend her own money, you know, and nobody hears about it. Yeah. And Mrs. Bensouda, distinguished lawyer, a mentor. All of them are mentors to me. Hawasabali. These are like outstanding lawyers who really set the bar very high and have done many things that you don't even hear about because not everybody is loud and will blow their own trumpet.
mhm,
But for me, I saw this, and of course, I mean, there are younger lawyers also upcoming who I admire greatly. But I saw these lawyers, and in case I forget anybody, but I mean, these are lawyers that, of course, Mansella, I told you, who really were very, very brave I mean, in so many ways, not only about human rights, but even fighting for some villager whose land is taken,
mhm,
who doesn't have legal fees. It happens all the time. It happens, and you never get to hear about it. So there's a lot of things that lawyers do that's not publicized, but the things that we don't do, of course, get publicized, and the things that we don't do right would get prominence, and that's normal because,
yeah,
sorry, lawyers are amongst the most hated professionally globally. It's not a Gambian problem. It's a global problem. If you look at, if you can Google it, they're amongst the most hated. I mean, for reason. I mean, because also some many lawyers, and I don't. I mean, seem to think that we have monopoly of knowledge and wisdom,
mhm,
and that actually pisses off a lot of people, right? And and also when lawyers, the land friend business. I mean, I mean, I train in England. In England, you will never hear a lawyer call a lawyer learned friend outside the courtroom. Never, ever. You never hear any lawyer talk, say, counsel outside the chancery or the courts in England. Outside the courts, it's Peter, Paul, Jane. That's it. Nobody talks counsel, this and that. Barrister, they don't do that. It's only in Africa where we mystify the profession and want to be called learned friend, this learned friend, that. I mean, that's in the room. You address your colleague, learned friend, counsel, but outside, you just salute Tal, Ibrahim Sonko, like every other citizen. And I think that also kind of repels a lot of people because people assume that lawyers are arrogant.
yeah,
And sometimes the nature of our profession makes us very confident and sometimes cocky
Mhm.
on, maybe not unwittingly, we sort of come out as cocky, and that actually intimidates people. And then the way we dress, with our black wig, it's actually intimidating.
Man, yeah.
And the wig, so people feel like, it's a colonial thing, it's a vestige of colonialism. We come there with the wig and gown and speak big English and Latin, and people are like, wow, you know.
And to that point, Sal, you did a great job to lay the foundation for the question that I want to ask, because as we all know, most of Gambian law, as it is for most Commonwealth countries, our legal systems are largely inherited, so much so that the remnants of the systems that we inherited still lives so largely and deeply in our legal systems, including regalias or the costumes like the wigs, for example, or the colonial languages that we use in our legal systems. Although many countries, like the United States, for example, have done a phenomenal job to adapt to the reality of their societies and the needs of time. Most African countries have not done that. And I'm just curious to ask you, what should a post-colonial Gambian legal system look like?
Maybe we should say, what does a post-colonial state look like?
Well, that too, yes.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
law and the state are so heavily interconnected.
yeah.
I agree.
You cannot have a post-colonial legal profession without a post-colonial state. I think we are all post-colonial citizens, right?
Yes.
The language speaking here is alien to us. Our intellectual orientation is colonial, whether we like it or not. We might rebel against it. So I think if we don't deconstruct the state, and rebuild a state that is centered around our values, we'll always play second fiddle to the Western ideology and influences, and the bar is a microcosm of that. It's not only the bar. People tell the bar, "Oh, you and vegan gum." Like, yes, I don't personally. I don't. Tomorrow. I'm happy to give it up. If we were going to campaign, I'll lead the campaign 100%, unapologetically. But I guess what I said. Guess what? How about your suit and tie in this heat? You are trying to be a quintessential English gentleman. The idea of an African dressed up, eh, Sanse, songa kos, songa tie. Isn't that colonial? And many, many other things. Here, if you come on time, ki tubabla. Here, ki tubabla. If you tell the truth, here, ki tubabla. Tubabudi. Hamga. Because our mindset is programmed to believe that all virtues are Western and white. Anything bad is dark. Even language, in terms of language, epistemology, language, dark. Even a woman, when they want to be light skinned, because dark is not good. So it's a mindset. So for me, a post-colonial legal system, right? I would first make sure that we can practice law in our local languages, because language is speaks to who you are. If you cannot practice law or legislate in your language, then you're not. Then majority of your population are not participating in the system. And India does it. India does it. I was in India about 2 years ago, and I was on a panel with the Chief Justice of India at the Common Lawyers meeting in Goa, and he was talking about how they've managed to translate all their laws in their local language using AI in India. So in India, not speaking English is not a barrier to entry to participate in the legal system. In Gambia, if you cannot speak English, it's a barrier to participating, and it really affects and begs the question: do we really have access to justice? So I think, I can delve more into this, but really,
Yeah.
just like National Assembly, if you can't speak English, you can't participate meaningfully. Even though I believe that every National Assembly should speak English because it's our official language. But I think we need to we need to really unpack this thing and ask ourselves, who are we really? Or who do we want? If we really want to, if we really want to, we must decolonize, and it's not going to be pretty. It's not easy, because we have to really look back and say, how do we dismantle these structures that are just designed for us to serve Western interests.
So, I think that's an important point and very fundamental because, again, I've always been a proponent of, decolonizing our systems. How that is going to look like, I think, is a far-fetched, really goal that we eventually have to get there. In the same way that we talk about the system of democracy that we have is not responsive to what we want or what we should be doing, but we still haven't figured out what is it the ideal system that we want. But in terms of substantive law, I'm just curious, what's been happening in the Gambia? There's an issue of the people being so much removed from the administration of justice in some spheres in the Gambia, in some contexts. People don't understand the concept of how law is being administered, for example, in the courts, or people don't even understand that the courts are there as a source of remedy to administer justice if their rights are violated or if they seek remedy. And you also go deeper into our law books, for example, substantively, the criminal code has a lot to do with, it still details a large part of colonial law that has been inherited, and among other issues. So I was just curious in terms of just narrowing this down a little bit. What is the significance of really trying to make, because these are immediate needs of our, sort of where we live and how we could really deal with these things, especially with that power bestowed in the National Assembly in terms of legal reforms. Do you think these are important considerations that as a society we should really prioritize to look into them and figure out as immediate needs to deal with these realities that we have than having a wholesale reform that is going to take a while to come?
I mean, absolutely. I think our legal system, and the institutions created by our legal system, our laws, still have vestiges of our colonial past, and sometimes it's rather unfortunate. For example, I'll just give you an example. Um, the Public Order Act, as an example, right? This is a colonial law that was designed by the governor in those days to prevent locals from speaking up against the way they were being treated. That's why in those days, I mean, you cannot, if you want to come together as locals to protest against your colonial masters, governor has to agree permission. Now governor is IGP. And in those days, if you're not, they don't want people to hear you, let's hear you out. They say, if you want to speak, you must get a permit to have a PA system because they don't want you to amplify your voice,
Mhm.
right? And today, we still use those laws that were weaponized against us. The colonialists were weaponizing those laws to limit our ability to assemble or express ourselves on dissent. Those same laws are being used by our governments against us. So that's
I
an
mean,
example of
I don't mean to cut you short, but sedition and criminal
exactly.
libel, those are all. And I asked that question specifically in reference to those.
Yeah, I'm coming to that because
Mhm.
you cannot insult the queen. The queen is above everybody. There's God and there's the queen, or the king, as the case may be. So those sedition is basically, if you insult anybody else, it's not a crime. But if you insult the queen, it's a crime.
Yeah.
And guess what? Those We just have a Criminal Offences Act now passed 2025. Those provisions have been maintained today, and it's our own very National Assembly who maintained it. Because when we reviewed the bill as civil society and the bar and GPU and others, we specifically asked for those provisions to be expunged. That it has no place in a modern democratic society. Even the ECOWAS court has made pronouncement on this, has asked Gambia to repeal it, those provisions. And guess what? They maintained it. I think they even expanded. They even included a provision called the insulting provision. Like if you insult, I think a minister, president, I think a parliamentarian, it's a crime in Gambia, and you can be fined. You and I can be insulted, no problem,
Mhm.
right? But not that I'm encouraging anybody to insult anybody. I don't think nobody should be insulted, particularly those who are serving us. But to make it a criminal offense, to me, really, it baffles me. But it also shows you that our mindset have not changed. Jammeh has gone, But the Jammeh system is still in place. It's all about control, control, control. Those who have power don't want the citizens, those who are in, not power, those who are in power, let me put it correct. Those in power mean those who are elected in offices, because the power is in the citizens, by the way. Those in power who are elected and entrusted by us to serve us, do everything possible to minimize our ability to hold them accountable. And so all those laws are designed to make it difficult for us to protest peacefully or to express our opinions or views, something otherwise. So that thing. I mean, when I talk to common people, ministers and parliamentarians, when they speak, I ask myself, am I in Gambia or not? Have these guys forgotten? You know what they say? Sal, there's too much democracy. Why did you have a buddy? I'm like, yeah, why did you have a buddy? But it wasn't buddy when it was helping you get to power. It was okay then, right? I'm like, I mean, so where's the sincerity in genuinely changing from a dictatorship to a vibrant democracy? I mean, how? It's only, in my opinion, it's self-serving. I tell you, one of my biggest disappointments in Gambia is not the executive, it's the National Assembly.
Yes.
My biggest disappointment because when we had the change, our focus was always about, oh, we have to keep the executive in check. That's what you expect, right? You never expect you will have a National Assembly that is so self-serving and it's all about its interests. I mean, look at the laws that they pass. They pass laws about the salaries, the welfare. Name me one serious law that they have passed that has really helped the Gambian people. Really, I mean, it is. I mean, it is really difficult to fathom how people who are elected supposed to serve the interests of the people, typically serve party interests, and this goes. It's both UDP and NPP. Sorry to say that when it comes to the National Assembly, they put their party first, not country. With all due respect, that's why we are here. We don't have a constitution. Our laws are diluted. Even though we have many laws that we put the anti-corruption law, they have taken out provisions that will make them more accountable. Like the provision that they took out, for example, on explain wealth. They said they took it out on the floor. They said they don't want it. Can you imagine that? And many things.
Yeah.
So and these are the people that we elect. I mean, they just increased the deposit to be president or run for parliament. When Jammeh increased, this was what Solo Sending was protesting against. In the name of the legacy of Solo Sending, he's turning in his grave. Each of these parliamentarians should be ashamed of themselves, voting to make it more expensive to participate in elections. I mean, where's the conscience of it? Where's our conscience? It's a democracy. You compete, whoever wins. But I mean, to increase this thing so much so that you can set a high bar so people who have means cannot participate in politics, that cannot be right. And guess what? The people don't even feel like it's wrong in Gambia. Who's talking about it?
Yeah. So on the National Assembly, what's the significance of having a new constitution? Because again, people have divergent opinions on this. You know, we tried to have a new constitution through the CRC. It failed because of the idea of retroactive clause. Whether you agree with that or not, that's a conversation for another day. And then eventually, now we know certainly that we're not going to have a new constitution this year. So, what is really the importance of the Gambia at this point to have a new constitution? Post 2026 presidential elections, or should we just keep the 1997 and modify it? Go ahead.
I mean, realistically, there's no real political will to usher in the Third Republic. I would say it like unapologetically. The borough government has not demonstrated any political will to usher in the Third Republic. Because if you look at, and the opposition under Ousmane Dabo have not been strategic enough. So I put the blame squarely on the incumbent and partly on the opposition, right? Because we all work very hard on the CRC 2020, right? I mean, it's not it's not a perfect constitution, but I think it ticks many boxes. It was consultative, participatory, and progressive, but it was too voluminous. There's too much. There's too much in it, because they were trying to legislate against Jammeh, against a Jammeh-like system. So, which is not what constitution don't do that. Constitution are broad based principles, and you need legislation to expound on issues, not to make it too detailed. So I think that's where probably they could have done it differently. And the issue of term limits, it could have been very simple and just make it 2 terms. But all the same, I really didn't expect that the incumbent who came on a mandate of serving 3, even though constitution entitled to 5, would have an issue with a clause that would limit his ability to serve more than 2 terms. So that for me is problematic. That's a political question, right? So obviously, but who said that if anybody challenges his power, he will take you to court? Who said that? Who said it? So we can rewrite history. We know who's responsible, both parties. So we bear the brunt of them. All of them are, for when it suits them, they take a certain position. So I'm sorry, that was a very disappointing and self-serving position to take. That's why we are here today. If at that time all of them came at the coalition and said, look, 3 years you have to go. Today we'll have transition. Why did they not prioritize the constitution? That should have been the first thing they should have done, not Jammeh Commission or whatever, or TRRC. The foundation of the state is based on an executive imperial constitution that is designed to serve one person. Look at the constitution. It is designed to make you a dictator. The president has so many powers. They can use the powers to do many things. But they all complain about it, but they still maintain it, because once they start enjoying it, they're like, wow, why should I give this up?
Yeah.
So how genuine are we in terms of you cannot say that you want to build a progressive democracy and be using the tools of a dictatorship. There's a mismatch there, and that's what it is. You have a 1997 constitution, which was changed over 50-something times by Jammeh to serve him, to give him so much power, and then you say that you are making reforms that is in line with a modern democracy. It doesn't add up. If we're genuinely serious about being a modern, participatory, progressive democracy, the first thing is the foundational document should reflect that. And it does not. And it's still what we are using today.
Yeah.
So I think realistically, right now, I don't expect any changes until after 2026. But I think maybe they could have done incremental changes. Maybe Halifa was right.
So anyway, that conversation will continue. I think what we can all agree is there is need for legal reform, and it has to begin certainly with some form of a progressive constitution that, in many ways is radically and fundamentally different from what we have right now. And I hope that whoever comes president in end of 2026 really prioritizes that. But Sal, you also run a law firm in the Gambia, and you have a pretty decent experience with the business environment in the Gambia as well, which I believe you consult in that respect too for many organizations and companies. And so I was just curious, a lot of young people are graduating from University of the Gambia and also Gambia Law School. And how rewarding and viable is private practice in the Gambia? And if any, are there like challenges to young and bright lawyers who are graduating from Gambia Law School in terms of, material reward, like incentives as young lawyers that are getting into the legal profession in the Gambia?
Thank you. I think that's a good question. I think we should expand it beyond. Not all lawyers will go into private practice. I think we need many lawyers in the public sector, right? Because public sector is probably going to be the biggest employer of lawyers. If you go to Senegal and other countries or Nigeria, public sector hires a lot of lawyers, because I don't think the rate at which we are producing lawyers, the private sector cannot absorb the number of lawyers coming out. That's the reality. because it's a very small economy. But we need many lawyers, but we need many lawyers of different skills and capacity and specializations, right? Um, so the challenge is not how many lawyers we have; it's the type of lawyers we have. We need specialists. We need people who are going to do maritime law. We need lawyers who are going to do environmental law. We need maybe some people who are going to be doing AI. We need to start building specialized capacity. You know, we need lands office needs maybe 10 lawyers in house. You know, ports, social security. Now, like let's say Jerry has a big team, right? So I think if you go to francophone countries, they don't play with lawyers. Every department, government, every ministry will have in Senegal conseil juridique. You will not find, you will not go to a ministry that doesn't have a lawyer in Senegal, because everything has law is policy, law informs policy, and vice versa. So you must everything has a legal implication. So you must have the benefit of legal advice. You don't have to always have to run to aegis chambers to get legal advice. You can have instant. If let's say if you have a lawyer in the Ministry of Trade who is trading international trade law and policy and domestic trade, ECOWAS, and all of that person has more knowledge of the law than aegis chambers guy who today is doing advice on trade, tomorrow is doing advice on companies. So you build specialist capacity. So I think government should have a stream where some people will just become in-house lawyers, state lawyers, banking lawyers, insurance lawyers. You know, we can have a capital market lawyers. Today, if you have a capital market, how many lawyers know how to list in Gambia? When you have certain transactions in Gambia, we only have 2 or 3 that can do it, because I mean we need to be innovative and dynamic to find ways of finding work for our lawyers. And not all lawyers should go to court. We should not crowd the court. Now there's a lot of people are moving towards litigation and doing more of mediation and arbitration and so on and so forth. So for me, I'm more concerned about the quality than the quantity, because law is not just any profession. Law, like medicine, see, when you have a bad doctor, someone dies, so it's tangible. When you have a bad lawyer, it's you can't even quantify the damage. So and what I've noticed, because I sit at the GLC board, we actually council, we interview lawyers. I mean, people who want to who go for enrollment interviews, and sometimes I am disappointed with even the command of the language. I mean, you cannot be a lawyer and not understand how to speak basic English. You don't have to speak fancy English, basic English. It's a problem. I find myself correcting, because I can't. If you make a mistake, I'll correct you right there. I'm like, you want to be a lawyer, language, you need to know how to speak, communicate, how to write. These are your tools of trade. But many don't. Or some, I'll not say many, some don't. I don't want to generalize. And at the same time, some of the most brilliant, Banjugu, right?
He's my friend. He's my friend. We literally were talking today.
I mean, he's one of the most brilliant young men I've met. He worked with me. I've met some of the most brilliant who can go to anywhere and compete. Brilliant. And they went to UTG, law school. Brilliant. Oxford, Cambridge got nothing on them. In this Gambia, trained and played. But at the same time, I see people, I come across people, I'm like, wow, the same school. So it's not about the school, it's about the individual to some extent. But if you have a system, if you don't pass English and math, you should not be able to do a degree, any degree. That's standard. For law, you must be able to communicate. It's not about just demonstrating that you passed, civil procedure, criminal procedure, but English language. If your English is not up to par, you should not be called to the bar. I see people with grades called to the bar at enrollment. I'm like, wow, how did this person get to this level? It's not about, and there's a lot of people who just cram and regurgitate. And the law is not about your head is not like a hard drive. Your law is about your analytical ability that makes you stand out, not your ability to regurgitate cases. Or the law, you can open the book and read to the judge. You don't have to put cram in your head, but you need to understand the principle so you can still understand, analyze, and argue in court coherently. But that's where I see a gap in critical thinking.
Yeah.
And that's where, and it's not only in law, it's across the board in the country.
And Sal, would you also perhaps, and this is not, a jab at any, I love the law. I love all my professors at the Gambia Law School and University of the Gambia, even though I spent very little time at the Gambia Law School. But could this also be attributed to the manner in which we're teaching the law in the Gambia? And particularly in light of modern developments in the law, like I go to University of Washington here, and the technology is insane. And sometimes I just sit there, I'm like, if I survive in the Gambia, there is no way I'd fail here. It's just not possible because, I underwent excruciating experiences to access resources, but also there is also a very old school way of teaching law. It's very formalized, it's very professionalized, and there is this idea of, almost feels as though there's a superior and a junior constantly. I don't know what's the right adjective to use to describe that. So I think there is a level of intellectual superiority between senior lawyers and junior lawyers, how you should conduct yourself. Yes, ethics is part of it, but I was just curious too to see that are we preparing our young lawyers in terms of a very competitive digital economic lawyers market that we're having today in various parts of society in the Gambia? Because you can correct me, are we even considering digital economy, AI and all these things in our law school? Are we thinking along those lines already? Are we legislating these areas, not only at the Gambia Law School, but also as a National Assembly, envisioning that these are emerging trends that we need to think about legislating?
Yeah, I think this is a very good question. It has a lot of layers to it, and I'll try to unpack it. I definitely don't think our pedagogic system is fit for purpose. I mean, I'll say that unequivocally, I would say that. And okay, I'm lucky and privileged to have studied in England and did my bar in England. And in England, when you do your bar, they're more concerned about your transferable skills than your knowledge. In Gambia, it's a knowledge-based curriculum. In England, it's a skills-based curriculum. In England, in the exam, they give you all your books to open. You don't have to worry about that because they're not testing on cramming. They're testing you on your ability to understand the issues, to explain them, to write them succinctly. So they give you. It's about critical thinking. How do you answer questions? How do you do? How they also look at how you do research. When you have the answer, you also have where you explain how you got your answer. So as a lawyer, you have the ability to look for information. They have practical legal research and conventional research. That means very early on, you know how to use LexisNexis and all those things very early on. So they know that information is power. You need to know how to look for information as a lawyer, right? And when I was leaving, that's when they started doing electronics. So I was doing that electronic research it's about 20 something years ago. Then they were doing it. Now it's a whole different ballgame. It's AI. So number one. Number two, their system is they want you to pass, not for you to fail. Yeah. In Africa and Gambia, they think that if you have an exam and majority fail, that means they've succeeded because only 10 pass. The idea is to make people, to give them knowledge so they can pass, not that they fail. So you should, for me, if people fail, it speaks to the teacher as well. Who's your teacher? For me, it's a KPI issue. So you should be able to impart knowledge so that your students can pass, give them tools to pass and be better citizens. So I think here, I mean, I don't want to criticize anybody. We copy the Western world, but some of us who study in the Western world come and find Gambia too formal. England they're so easy with these things. We are what England used to be 30, 40 years ago, literally. That's what we are doing today in Gambia. We are, Roy Berrao bottom, that's what they say. So for example, all these officious things in England, they ceremonial. Even the weekend, in some cases, they don't even use it in England.
And advertisements, that's another question that I wanted to get asked about too.
I'll come to that. So, but I think one thing that, I'm always sort of mediating between the young lawyers and the older lawyers. So when I became bar president, I was very intentional about getting young lawyers in the executive, like Abdullah Fatihs, the Yamis, all those young people. I mean, it was a very. I mean, I was the oldest. I used to be the youngest in the group, and I became the oldest. And I'm very happy that I had, I encourage all these young people to be in the bar executive, to give it more dynamism, because young people are dynamic. They're more dynamic than older people. Older people may have wisdom, but dynamism really tends to reside amongst young people. That's human nature. So, but I always tell young people, every young lawyer will become an older lawyer, and every older lawyer was a younger lawyer. When it comes to ethics, right? Seniority in the bar